The new updates to Keynote are absolutely fantastic, and live video is going to be a real game changer. Let's take a look at how we can use this to improve remote, hybrid, and any training resources that we need to make.
Over the past 18 months, remote and hybrid learning, training sessions, we've all gone online, and it's all been a big learning curve, and it's been a case of screen sharing and jumping between applications and Keynote presentations and lots of different ways of doing things. Now, I started to use a system which I found worked really well for me, and I got a lot of lovely feedback from, and I'm just going to show you what that looked like. It was basically keeping everything in one place on the screen at once and being able to still be personable, because I was on the screen, I could model, and I had information that I needed on the screen. But what you'll notice is it looks pretty complicated, as in the fact that there are lots of instruments, lots of layers, and lots of tracks. And actually, so this was the format that I used, and it required two things: time to prepare. It required a lot of power from my MacBook Pro, and I'm very lucky that I've got a 32 gig MacBook Pro 2020, but it still required a lot of power to do that, and it required time preparing and then time building. So just to show you how I did that, was I began to use Keynote to build slide presentations, and I built animations coming in, and the background was always no fill. Now, the reason that I did all of this was each slide would then need to be exported individually as a video, and when you played it, it would come into the side of the screen, but it would leave this portion of the screen blank. Now, this meant that I was able to use a program called Wirecast, which I'm going to show you in a moment, but the new update of Keynote live video means that we no longer need this, and we no longer need that massive power, and it's just such a much better way of doing things and presenting. So these were all the slides where the animations, and slide 1 to 6, they were exported as video. Slide 7, these were shapes using the substitute tool and cutting out backgrounds, and some animations and a couple of iPad overlays there to make it look all slick. And from slide 7 to 11, these were exported as images. Then the remaining ones were exported as videos again, and so on and so forth. And it took a lot of time to build, a lot of time to save, and then from there we would have to go into Wirecast. Now, as you can see, Wirecast is a TV broadcasting kind of software package. What it allows me to do is it allows me to overlay graphics on top of cameras and inputs and all those types of things. And you can see that when I go, I have a preview window here, and I have a live window. So what I would do is I would be, and you can see down the side, quite complicated, I would be layering up microphones, videos, and I use Reincubate app on my iPhone as a camera, as a web camera. And then when I would need to kind of play the video, I would move it along, and the video would essentially come in, and that would play over the top. Now, as you can see, it takes a lot of time to be building these things, and I would have to layer on microphones, I'd have to layer on the images that I'd saved. So for example, you can see here, that's an image over the top of a screen grab with cameras dropped into the right place, and everything needs to be in the right place. I'd have to open Air Server and move Air Server into the right place, and it was very time consuming, and you can probably hear MacBook fans are starting to go, so it takes a lot of power. Now, as I was presenting, I would have to be using this Wirecast software to make sure that I was on the right slides and move through my slides. And the way that this worked on Zoom was the output was done via a virtual camera. So I would start the virtual camera. In Zoom or Teams, I would choose the Wirecast virtual camera as my input, and everything that was on screen would come through, and it looked really slick. Now, in Keynote Live, the new updates, this is no longer possible. This is no longer needed, sorry. There are so many things possible. You can bring in live video into that Keynote presentation, build your presentation,
Bring your iPad in and model and demonstrate without leaving Keynote and reducing the amount of power that you need. So let's go ahead and take a look at how easy that is to do. My standard Keynote presentation for a session that I may be delivering. Now, if I was to run this via Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, or I was to screen record this, what I would need to do is I would have to talk through the presentation and then leave Keynote and go into AirServer or QuickTime for any demonstrations. No longer is this the case with the brilliant new updates to Keynote with live video, where you can bring in multiple sources. So let's have a little look. Just going to take this kind of presentation, I'm going to shorten that down, move it in, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Media and I'm going to add in live video. Now it brings up the FaceTime HD MacBook camera as the default. Now I don't like that one because it's a bit grainy, so all I'm going to do is, I've just turned it off for a moment there, I'm just going to go to Format, the live video section here, and I'm going to go to the default camera. Now to add a source, you can hit plus, you can name that source and you can choose the source that's plugged into your MacBook. I've already done that, so I'm going to choose my iPhone 12. Now to make this a little bit better or a little bit more engaging, I've decided I want to use clips. However, clips is two problems: it shows the whole screen and it's in the wrong orientation. So we're going to go onto live video, format live video, we're going to go to masks. I'm going to make it circular because I prefer that. I think it just looks a bit slicker, and because the orientation is wrong, I'm just going to go to range and I'm going to change the angle to 90 degrees. You'll see that that's much better, but I do have the buttons on clips in view, so I'm going to double tap to take it into that masking mode, and I'm just going to drag it across to the side. I'm going to hit done, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shrink it. So straight away I've got live video with an emoji into my presentation. What I am going to do from here is I am going to add an animation to that, so I appear on the screen as the presentation starts, and I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm just going to copy it, and the reason I'm copying it is I've set it all up, so I've got the orientation, I've got the bits that I would like in the presentation. I want that to be the theme throughout, so I can just copy it and I can paste it wherever I need to put it. Don't have to change any of those settings again. Now I want to bring in a second screen to model how to use GarageBand. So what you'll notice is just on the bottom of the screen, I've taken an iPad frame and I've used Instant Alpha to remove the middle, so I've essentially got a frame now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that frame onto the screen. I'm going to go back into Media, back into live video, and I'm going to do the same as before. I'm just going to turn that off for a second. I'm going to go to Format, Live Video, I'm going to choose the source, and this time it's my iPad Pro. My iPad Pro will come onto the screen. The orientation is wrong again, so I'm going to go back onto Format. I'm going to hit Range, and this I'm going to hit Live Video, sorry, and this time I am going to hit Device Landscape. From here, because I've used Instant Alpha to remove the background, I should be able to arrange the iPad so it fits into the screen, and then arrange it to send it backwards so it fits the curve. So you can see in the top corner there, it fits within the frame. It's not particularly perfect, but for the purposes of just showing you how to do this, it works quite nicely. Just check by pulling it down. You can see there's a slight little white line there, which means that I may want to just move that up ever so slightly. And yeah, that seems to be pretty good. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that when I start to play my iPad now, you will notice there is a problem. There's no sound coming in. So if I'm going to demo using an app that has sound, I'm going to need that sound to come in. Not to worry, there is a workaround for this, and if you simply open QuickTime and you go to File, New Movie Recording, and you can see my iPad is opened on the screen because that is the last device that I used with QuickTime. If your iPad's not appearing there, click on the arrow next to the red record button, select the camera to be your iPad, whichever one it may be, and select the microphone to be your iPad, whichever one it may be. Now I'm just going to turn up the volume. and I'm just going to minimize that because, well, let's check it first. Sound is now playing, so I'm going to stop that, and because that's running in the background, I'm just going to minimize it, and I'm going to go back to my Keynote presentation. And what should happen here is when I click now, the sound plays too. Now I want to make this ever so slightly slicker. I want to make it look a little bit better, so I'm going to group and select both objects, move them off the screen, and I am going to animate magic move on the slide. So I'm going to hit animate, I'm going to add the magic move effect, and I want the iPad to slide onto the screen. So I'm going to duplicate that slide, and I'm just quite simply going to move that onto the screen. Now because I've duplicated the slide, this will be animated again. So I'm gonna essentially remove that animation. So it's still on the first slide, it's still animated on the first slide, but I will remain on screen while the iPad slides in. When we start the presentation and we start our session, I can now I appear on screen and I can say, hi, my name's Paul and welcome to GarageBand. I'm very excited to show you live loops. It's a fantastic thing to use in GarageBand. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So GarageBand is fantastic for making music, but live loops is brilliant because it allows you to create your own creations from pre-installed live loops that are already on the iPad, and you can remix and you can really get some creative outcomes going here. So let's take a look at how this works. Here I've chosen a song, and I'm just going to start modeling how we can play all of these rows together, or we can mix up different rows.
I've always been the one to say the first goodbye. Had to love and lose 100 million times. Had to get it wrong to know just what I like. Now I'm falling. Stayed at home, 'cause I was doing better alone. But when
So you can see straight away, I'm not leaving Keynote, I'm sharing my screen, and I'm on the screen, I've got my iPad on the screen, the sound's coming in, and the presentation's just so much slicker, and I'm not having to change about everywhere. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much for watching, and any comments would be fantastic. Thank you.